I spent um, a lot of time not wanting children. I grew up bullied, and honestly, I just associated that with children, and I didn't want any. And then I met a woman in my 20s who had children, and I fell in love with them. Ironically, it took towards the end of our relationship for me to actually feel like I wanted to have biological children. So, just towards the end, I scheduled time with an endocrinologist so I could see what to do to make it possible for me to have kids. I went through several different forms of treatment in order to begin ovulating again. What's interesting from spiritual perspective is that in my birth chart, um, in my fifth house, which is the area that deals with children, is the planet Uranus. And so Uranus can indicate some instability in your ability to have children. My fifth house also happens to be ruled by Scorpio. So lots of death, rebirth, transformation in the area of me and children. And to be able to see that later and see like this is a journey that I was, probably going to go through was really interesting. So, fast forward, and I'm finally having a cycle again. But when I was actively trying to get pregnant, I still was not getting pregnant. And this was frustrating and disheartening for me. When I started to show signs, my then best friend, that was a woman, did not want to get my hopes up. So I made jambalaya for dinner, and I like spicy food. So that night I make the jambalaya, and I actually get heartburn for the first time ever in my life. But since I've never had heartburn before, I had no idea what was happening. I'm like, yo, take me to the hospital. Something is wrong. I am completely freaking out. And he's like, oh, you just have heartburn. So I'm thinking, it'll pass, whatever. Get to work. The next day, I do what I normally do. I get some french fries, and what do I put on there? Hot sauce. Whole chest goes into flames. I am freaking out. Why the freak do I have heartburn? My former friend then lets me know later that at that moment she knew I was pregnant, but because of the struggles that I had already had, did not want me to get my hopes up. Even though I felt disheartened, um, I really did have some sort of hope that I would conceive somewhere in my being because I was still taking my temperature first thing in the morning. And I realized that week I was really not, it just wasn't high, it was really high. And as it got closer to when would be the first day of my goddess cycle, it was not dropping. But that still told me nothing because I have watched myself hold that really high temperature, and all of a sudden, the first day of my cycle, it just plummet. Like it's not gradual, it's just it's here and then it's not. But that Saturday, the day that my cycle is supposed to begin, no drop, no cycle. By this time, I now know I'm already exhibiting morning sickness because I was really sick to my stomach. One of my other friends called me, how are you doing? How's your temperature? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's still up. Are you going to take a test? No. Why? Because it's probably nothing. My period will probably show up on Monday. Sunday, I'm supposed to go volunteer at this big art festival. It's a lot of moving, blah, blah, blah. Get up Sunday morning. My boyfriend's in the bed, sleep. I leave to get up, and I just feel like hot trash. I have a test from the dollar store, and I take it just to rule pregnancy out. And I look at it, and initially I read the test wrong because I didn't read the instructions. I don't know why I walk back other than an intuitive nudge to turn around and read the instructions. So I do, and I pick it up out of the trash, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. I can't tell you how freaking happy and terrified I was all at the same time because his father and I had had a discussion. I can't have kids, not naturally. And here I am, pregnant. So what do? Say absolutely freaking nothing and leave the house like nothing's going on. I go and I try to volunteer. I'm riding down the road, but I had taken a picture of it. And I sent it to my homegirl, and she's like, oh my God. Oh my God. And, we're like texting back and forth. And she's like, where are you? And I'm like, on my way to Arts and Art. She's like, for what? I'm like, to volunteer. What are you doing? Go. Like, go home. What is wrong with you? And I'm like, yo, I got to volunteer. I signed up to volunteer. Like that loyalty thing for me, like I'm not a natal Leo rising, but Leo does rule the house of my core values. So that loyalty thing is really important, and I'm a progressed Leo rising. So yeah. So I get there and realize I am entirely too sick to do squat. I'm surprised I physically made it down there driving because all I wanted to do was all, all over my steering wheel. I get to the thing, I say, I don't think I can do this today. And she's like, are you okay? I said, yeah, I apparently have morning sickness and just found out I'm pregnant. And she says the same thing my friend said. What are you doing here? Please leave. Congratulations. Go home. So I get home, and by then my boyfriend is up and he's sitting there, um, playing on his phone or whatever. And I said, we need to talk. So he's like, well, what's up? What do we want to talk about? And I said, my period's late. He's like, okay. I said, she ain't coming either. So he's like, what, you pregnant? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you playing. So I go get the test. He says, who tested? I will never forget. He asked me that. He said, whose test is that? And I'm like, bruh, did you think I get somebody pee stick? What is wrong with you? So he's like, okay, well, tomorrow you need to go ahead and make an appointment. And okay. And I'm like, you're not mad? He's like, no. Now, let me hit you with the spiritual real fast. Prior to me getting pregnant, and I'm going to tell you how divine timing works, because I had been actively trying to get pregnant prior to meeting him and eventually just gave up. I just didn't think it was going to happen. Me and him met in May. At the time that we met, I was working 2 jobs. And I had just gotten a promotion the month prior to my day job. And everyone kept asking me, why am I still working the other job? I don't need it anymore. I was living at home with my parents. Why are you working 2 jobs? And I didn't really have an answer. I had misplaced loyalty once again. And eventually what ends up happening, because the creator understood their child and that I was not going to quit my job unless something happened, and something happened. And the day that it happened, I emailed my letter of resignation. Like, yo, I got a promotion at my day job, and Wednesday's gonna be my last day. So had I not, I saw the schedule. I was scheduled to work on what is now the day that I met my kid's father. Had I not done that, we wouldn't have met, and I wouldn't have had any of my children. So we meet in May. By June, we're official, he says I'm official, and I'm like, okay. And by August, he's asked me to move in. I know fast, whatever. Time is a construct anyway. By September, I'm pregnant. And in the course of this time, we watch I think it's one of the Best Man movies, where she's pregnant and she has to have a C-section. And he says to me, real calm and cool, you are going, not you may, in like a declarative, you are going to need a C-section when you have your baby. Bruh. 1, I'm not pregnant. 2, I done told you I can't get pregnant. And 3, why do you feel like I need a C-section? I think I was pregnant within a month of him saying that. So I'm pregnant, and it's just wild because his name comes to um, my ex really clear and won't leave him. Like, this is full blown download, whether my ex knows it or not. He got a full on download of our son's name. And he comes to tell me, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, he's like, I got this name in my head for the baby, and it won't let me go. And I'm like, I had been making all these lists, and I'm like, okay, what's up? What's the name of the baby? And he's like, Gabriel Alexander. Oh, that's fine. Whoa, hey, Gabriel. Like, immediately, hey. He's like, wait, and like, nope, that's the baby's name. I have rubbed the belly and said the name. That's his name. His name is Gabriel Alexander. Thank you so much for the name. Especially since I said, being raised as an Israelite and all of us having Hebrew names, I didn't know I was going to have children, but I said I always wanted to make sure my kids had at least one Hebrew name. And so for him to have both, he have Gabriel as his first name, and then it's an archangel, meant a lot. And we'll talk about why Gabriel's name is significant in the next one. I'll see y'all later.